I'm going to explain how BBC dishonesty has impacted a Scottish family party member. Just watch this, it's quite an eye-opener.
Whose job is it to decide what our children learn in school?
So last summer the BBC aired a Panorama programme about the LGBT education issue, about the Muslims protesting against it in Birmingham. One of the main themes they were trying to punch home through the programme was that these protesters are so stupid that they believe this.
Today, again, rumours are circulating that children are being taught to be gay.
So let's hear the evidence that people actually do believe this.
On social media and websites like this one, there have been claims that the RSE curriculum is part of a drive to socially engineer the values of children.
Yes, absolutely. These resources are designed to influence the values of children. I mean, is that controversial? Would anyone deny that? Social engineering? Yes, it is a form of social engineering, because what they're trying to do is change the assumptions about family structure in the whole of society.
And others say the No Outsiders programme involves the promotion of homosexuality.
Promotion of homosexuality? Well, of course it is. Look at the names of some of these educational programmes. Educate and Celebrate. They're forever talking about celebrating diversity, not accepting, tolerating, celebrating diversity. Pride events in schools. Of course it promotes homosexual relationships as a valid option. Why do they deny that? I mean, that's explicitly what their message is. Okay, will that make pupils gay? That's the thing they're really trying to get at. Well, let's think about it this way. A few years ago, there was some research published, I think it was in The Guardian, and it said over half of 16-year-olds in Britain regard themselves as not exclusively heterosexual. So that means to some extent they're open to experimenting sexually with people of the same sex. Now, there's a degree of plasticity with sexuality. In other words, your experiences contribute to moulding your sexuality. So LGBT inclusive education will result in more pupils experimenting with homosexual relationships and therefore, as a result, going on to identify as gay or to go into longer term gay relationships in the future. There we are, I said it. Now, the goal of the Panorama crew was to get people to agree with what they thought was the outlandish suggestion that books about kids having two mums or whatever make people gay. Now, that's a really sort of crude caricature of the sort of point I've just made, but that's what they were fishing around trying to find, obviously. And when the Panorama crew were making this programme, they came to Scotland and filmed a meeting of a little organisation called Catholic Family Voices, run by Pauline Gallagher, who's a Scottish Family Party member, and I was along at the meeting as well, and they filmed some of the discussion. And during that, they'd got some books with, Penguin with two mums or whatever, and they were trying to get people to say this. And at one point, I had the books on my lap, and they were saying, what do you think of these, what do you think? And I explained the sort of things I'd just been saying then. But obviously, none of that made it into the programme. But Pauline Gallagher did a longer interview with them, and it included this.
Just so that I'm clear, Pauline, you're saying that these books are making children gay?
If you go back and look at the programme, that's what they're designed to do.
Well, they got her there, didn't they? When I watched that on television for the first time, I winced. I thought, that was a bit of a blunder. I wouldn't have said that, anything like that. But then I thought, actually, I don't think Pauline would have done either. Then I thought, I'm not sure that quite sounds right, is the answer to the question. I mean, just note here that when she answered, notice the sound effect, the sinister drone appears in the background.
If you go back and look at the programme, that's what they're designed to do.
That's actually not the sound effect that's really sinister here. It's the BBC's behaviour that's sinister. Because Pauline Gallagher did not say that in answer to that question. Yes, they copied that quotation from another part of the interview, pasted it in as the answer to that question. They were so determined to get someone to say that these books turn kids gay that they had to resort to downright dishonesty to tell the story that they wanted to tell. So Pauline's interview was just to provide them with raw material that then they could chop up and put together as they liked to tell the story that they wanted to tell. Now, at the time when Pauline said this has happened, I said to her, complain to the BBC, tell them you want them to produce the unedited footage of that video. But by that point, she'd had enough of the thing. You'll see later what's gone on to happen. She didn't want any more fuss. She decided to drop it. I think she is going to complain to the BBC now. So the BBC broadcast their dishonest, doctored interview, and that created a bit of a Twitter storm. Now, Pauline was called all sorts. You could imagine the sort of foul-mouthed, vulgar abuse from the tolerance brigade that she was subjected to. So that wasn't a particularly pleasant experience for her. But look at this tweet. Did she actually say that? Well, I can answer that question for you. No, she didn't. Anyway, who picked up on that tweet? None other than Jordan Daly, founder of the TIE campaign, the campaign for LGBT inclusive education, so-called, where they have LGBT content from nursery upwards all the way through school in any subject. So in the Scottish Parliament, Jordan Daly is regarded as some sort of messianic figure. People all but bow down before him. And Jordan in this tweet says that Pauline is his old RE teacher. That's quite a coincidence, isn't it? But that is true. So let's see what Mr. Daly has had to say about Mrs. Gallagher in the past.
I had one teacher in particular who told us that God clearly didn't like gays and that's why we got AIDS, so that they would get rid of us. If I listened to what Miss Gallagher was saying, it meant I was going to get AIDS because that's what God wanted for me.
I'd watched that clip before I realised it was referring to Pauline. And when I watched it, I thought, I just don't believe that. That is a gross distortion at best of what might actually have been said by a teacher. And sure enough, Pauline confirms that she never said anything like that. Now, my personal view, which I think is just mainstream Christian teaching, is that homosexual sex is morally wrong, and acting in contravention of God's moral law is likely to have negative consequences. That's what I believe as a mainstream Christian belief. Now, I'm not saying that because that's anything to do with the Scottish Family Party particularly. I'm saying it because if anyone says you're not allowed to say something, and it's what I believe, I will say it in solidarity with them. So, there we are. So Pauline's been the victim of two deliberate misrepresentations of her views. Number one by the BBC, number two by Jordan Daly. Right, who's going to weigh in next? The Times Educational Supplement wrote an article covering the issue and also saying about, could this contravene GTCS standards? That came up on Twitter as well. So people coming in saying, oh, look at the GTCS professional standards. In other words, Pauline, who's a teacher, should be struck off by the General Teaching Council for Scotland. And they posted sections from their professional standards. And I won't bother reading this out to you. It's just vacuous waffle. It's talking about social justice. I actually contacted GTCS at one point and said, can you please define social justice? You're saying teachers have to adhere to this philosophy, but tell me what it is, please. And they replied saying, well, it's up to teachers to work it out for themselves. I mean, that is laughable, isn't it? That's just sheer incompetence from a regulatory body. But anyway, so who's weighing in next on Twitter? John Naples Campbell. We've come across him before in a video. He's connected with GTCS in some way. GTCS Prof Rec for Holocaust Education, LGBT, whatever. So he's involved in GTCS in some way. We've come across him before. He was saying how much he enjoys the smutty drag shows on TV. He's been given an award by GTCS for his LGBT education work. So what does he say on Twitter? Please tell me, GTCS, that she is no longer a registered teacher. Okay, so basically reporting her via Twitter saying, I hope that she's not registered. GTCS reply, hi John, matey's friendly style. We're aware of this clip. It is our role to assure the high quality of teachers in Scotland. Best wishes. Thanks. According to the register, she's still accredited, although retired. In other words, over to you, GTCS. Please strike her off at my bidding. So that's basically a report made to GTCS by Twitter. GTCS replying, basically saying, yes, we're on the case. Now, they will claim, oh, we didn't actually say that, where that is obviously their deliberate meaning. Now, they will claim, oh, we didn't quite say that. If they claim that, that would just be a sign of their total lack of integrity. So via Twitter, they're indicating their intention to investigate Pauline Gallagher before they've actually bothered contacting Pauline Gallagher. Tell the world, then tell the person that you're investigating. By any reasonable standards, that is, to say the least, unprofessional and unethical, but the General Teaching Council for Scotland is unaccountable. I actually wrote to them on one occasion and said, can you please tell me to whom you are accountable? No reply. So that's why they can get away with behaving like this. So GTCS are now investigating Pauline Gallagher. In other words, they've opened a case against her that could result in her being struck off. It's based on the Panorama programme that we've talked about. I've given my view there. The Scottish Catholic Observer article that she wrote at some point last year, that article, I agree with every word of it, by the way, and allegedly on comments that she made while she was a teacher. Now, I wonder who might have reported those. So we can assume pretty safely that those reports are also extremely unreliable, let's say. So it starts with BBC dishonesty. We've got dishonesty from Jordan Daly, the Thai campaign. We've got a Twitter mob. We've then got a chronically politicised, ideologically blinkered, compliant GTCS. And Pauline now faces a 2-year process that could eat up hundreds of hours of her life and who knows what amount of stress in order to hear what GTCS deigns to do with her on the basis of these complaints. Now, my policy on this sort of thing and the Scottish Family Parties is we will instantly stand alongside anyone being subjected to this sort of bullying. So, General Teaching Council for Scotland, I'm a registered teacher as well, but I'm standing with Pauline in this case as far as I can tell. I've said what I think about the LGBT resources in primary schools. I've said I agree with every word of her Scottish Catholic Observer article, and I find it pretty hard to imagine that Pauline actually said anything class that wasn't in line with Catholic teaching and would be anything that I wouldn't personally agree with. This is what we all need to start doing, standing up for each other, not keeping our heads down until it's our turn in the firing line. Now, okay, so that's what I've had to say there, but let's imagine if this was a Scottish Family Party MSP in the Parliament saying this. That would have a lot more of a punch, wouldn't it? That would give GTCS a lot more reason to just stop and think. And that's one of the reasons we want to get Scottish Family Party MSPs into the Parliament. And if you want to support us in that project, do join the Scottish Family Party via the link below. Thanks for watching.